is he?
Door!
What the hell?
Hey, what are you doing?
You sure that's a dog?
Nobody gets left behind
Or forgotten.
Boo! I'm gonna give you to
Disney just brought one of the most emotional childhood stories back to life via Broken Bar, but this time, Stitch looks more real, more dangerous, and more adorable than ever. From crazy behind-the-scenes facts to hidden details you completely missed, today on ReelSignal Studio we're diving deep into Lilo Stitch 2025A, and trust me, this live-action remake is not what fans expected. Lilo Stitch is a 2025 American live-action animated science fiction comedy drama movie made by Walt Disney Pictures and Ryback. The movie was directed by Dean Fleischer Camp and is a live-action remake of Disney's famous 2002 animated movie, Lilo Stitch. The film features actors Sydney Elizabeth Agudong, Billy Magnuson, Hannah Waddingham, Courtney B. Vance, Zach Galifianakis, and Maia Kealoha, who made her first movie appearance in this film. Original Lilo Stitch creator Chris Sanders also returned to voice the character Stitch once again. Work on the live-action version of Lilo Stitch first started in October 2018. Writer Mike Van Was joined the project along with producers Dan Lin and Jonathan Nyrick. Later, in November 2020, director John M. Chu was in talks to direct the movie. Even though Mike Van Was later left the project, he still received writing credit. In July 2022, Dean Fleischer Camp was officially announced as the director, while Chris Kakaniakalani Bright became the new writer for the film. Casting for the movie happened between late 2022 and mid-2023. Filming began in April 2023 and continued until July 2023. Production took place during the 2023 Writers Guild of America strike, but filming was later paused because of the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. After both strikes ended, filming restarted in February and March 2024. The movie's music score was created by Dan Romer, while the visual effects were handled by Industrial Light Magic along with several other visual effects studios. Lilo Stitch had its premiere at the El Capitan Theater in Los Angeles on May 17, 2025. The movie was officially released in the United States on May 23, 2025. by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. Critics gave the movie mixed to positive reviews, but it became a huge success at the box office. The film earned over $1.038 billion worldwide, making it the fourth highest-grossing movie of 2025. It also became the highest-grossing live-action and animated hybrid movie ever made, and the first film of its kind to cross the $1 billion mark worldwide. Because of the movie's success, a sequel is now being developed. Chris Sanders is returning as the writer, and the sequel is planned to release on May 26, 2028. On the planet Turo, scientist Dr. Jamba Jakaiba is found guilty by the United Galactic Federation for performing illegal genetic experiments. He created a dangerous and nearly indestructible creature called Experiment 626, who is highly intelligent but extremely destructive. Jamba is sent to prison, while 626 is exiled because of his violent behavior. However, 626 escapes by stealing a police spaceship and using its hyperdrive to travel to Earth, eventually crashing on the Hawaiian island of Kauai. The Grand Councilwoman promises Jamba his freedom if he captures 626 again, and she sends Earth expert Agent Plackley to help him. Meanwhile, a young Hawaiian girl named Lilo Pulakai gets kicked out of hula class after she pushes her bully Myrtle off the stage because she is upset about her older sister Nani Pulakai not showing up. Their social worker, Mrs. Kokoa, visits their home and believes Nani is struggling to properly care for Lilo. She gives Nani 3 days to improve things and complete her responsibilities. At the same time, 626 crashes near a wedding party and is accidentally hit by a tourist trolley before being taken to a local animal shelter. The next day, after hearing that Lilo wants a friend, their neighbor Tata takes her to the animal shelter where 626 is being kept. Realizing that Jamba and Plackley are searching for him, 626 pretends to be a dog so Lilo will adopt him and protect him. Nani later takes Lilo and the strange creature to the beach resort where she works with her friend David Kaina. After the creature tears a car seat, Nani jokes that she will have to stitch it back together, which gives Lilo the idea to name him Stitch. They enjoy their time at the resort, but Stitch accidentally starts a fire at one of the tables, causing Nani to lose her job. Later, Nani is visited by Mrs. Cocoa and Cobra Bubbles, who is secretly a CIA agent pretending to help with social services while investigating Stitch's arrival on Earth. Cocoa tells Nani she must quickly find another job. Unfortunately, every interview goes badly because of the chaos caused by Lilo and Stitch. Eventually, Lilo helps Nani get a new job as a surfing instructor, and after her first successful day at work, they all go surfing together. At the same time, Jamba and Plackley attempt to capture Stitch while riding jet skis, but their plan fails and causes everyone to crash into the ocean. During the accident, Lilo almost drowns after Stitch accidentally pulls her underwater. After Lilo recovers, Cocoa informs Nani that the Hawaiian government will pay for Lilo's medical costs if Nani gives up guardianship of her sister. Although heartbroken, Nani agrees because she wants Lilo to have a safer future. During their emotional final night together, Stitch begins to realize how much pain he has caused the family. Feeling guilty and unwanted, he sadly leaves the house and returns alone to the animal shelter. Meanwhile, the Grand Councilwoman becomes angry that Jamba failed to recapture Stitch. She cancels her deal with him and orders Plackley to take Jamba back to prison. However, Jamba escapes and decides to hunt down Stitch himself. The following morning, Cocoa and Cobra Bubbles arrive at the Pulakai house and discover that Lilo is missing. Nani joins them in searching for her. Lilo eventually finds Stitch at the animal shelter, but Jamba suddenly appears to capture him. Lilo and Stitch escape back to the Pulakai home, where a huge fight breaks out between Stitch and Jamba, destroying the house in the process. During the battle, Jamba reveals that Stitch originally stayed with Lilo only to protect himself from capture. Feeling ashamed and guilty, Stitch gives himself up to Jamba. Jamba then takes Stitch aboard his spaceship using a special portal gun and plans to erase the kindness and emotions Stitch has developed. However, Lilo secretly sneaks onto the ship and frees Stitch. Together, they force Jamba out of the spacecraft, but the ship crashes into the ocean, trapping both Lilo and Stitch underwater. Stitch manages to save Lilo, but because he cannot swim properly, he lets her rise safely to the surface while he sinks and drowns below. Nani and David quickly rescue Lilo, but Lilo refuses to abandon Stitch. David carries Lilo back to shore while Nani dives underwater to save Stitch from the bottom of the ocean. They finally bring him back to land, but Stitch is unconscious and appears lifeless. Soon after, Cobra Bubbles finds Plackley, and they reunite with the others. David manages to revive Stitch by jump-starting his lungs, bringing him back to life. Shortly afterward, the Grand Councilwoman arrives and arrests Jamba once again. After witnessing how much Stitch has changed and how deeply he cares for his new family, she decides to allow Stitch to stay on Earth with his new Circumflexohana, or family. She promises to stay in contact, while Plackley chooses to live with the Pulakai family and watch over Stitch. Back at home, Cocoa tells Nani that Lilo's guardianship can be shared with David, Tata, and Cobra Bubbles, allowing the sisters to remain together. The family then repairs their damaged house and finally begins living happily together again. In a mid-credits scene, Nani is shown attending the University of California, San Diego to study marine biology, something Lilo encouraged her to do. Using Jamba's portal gun, Nani is still able to visit Lilo and Stitch and Kai whenever she wants. The casting for the 2025 live-action Lilo Stitch marked a significant effort by Disney to blend fresh talent with familiar voices while emphasizing cultural authenticity in its Hawaiian setting. At the heart of the film is Maia Kealoha in her feature film debut as Lilo Pulakai. Kealoha, a young Hawaiian actress, brought an authentic energy and emotional depth to the role of the lonely, rambunctious 6-year-old girl dealing with the loss of her parents. Her performance captured Lilo's mix of vulnerability, creativity, and occasional chaos, making the character feel grounded in real emotional experiences rather than cartoon exaggeration. Critics noted how Kealoha balanced the whimsical elements with heavier themes of grief and family struggle, creating a believable anchor for the story. Sydney Elizabeth Agudong portrayed Nani Pulakai, Lilo's older sister and guardian. Agudong's take on Nani emphasized the weight of responsibility on a young woman barely out of her teens. In this film, Nani has turned down opportunities like a full ride to study marine biology to care for her sister. Agudong conveyed the exhaustion, love, and frustration of this role with nuance, showing Nani's determination to keep the family together against threats from social services. Her chemistry with Kealoha was frequently praised as one of the film's strongest elements, grounding the fantastical alien storyline in relatable sibling dynamics. Chris Sanders reprised his iconic role as the voice of Stitch, Experiment 626. Sanders, who co-created the original 2002 animated film and provided both writing and voice work, returned to bring continuity and authenticity to the mischievous alien. His gravelly, expressive vocal performance remained instantly recognizable, blending chaos, curiosity, and eventual loyalty. The decision to keep Sanders as Stitch was widely celebrated by fans, providing a direct link between the beloved classic and the new adaptation. Zach Galifianakis was cast as Dr. Jamba Jakaiba, the eccentric alien scientist who created Stitch. Galifianakis brought his signature comedic timing and larger-than-life presence to the role, delivering a more comedic yet still threatening interpretation of the mad genius. His interactions with other galactic characters added humor to the interstellar pursuit subplot. Billy Magnussen played Plackley, the one-eyed Earth expert and Jamba's reluctant partner. Magnussen's portrayal leaned into the character's neurotic and flamboyant traits, providing plenty of fish-out-of-water comedy as the duo attempted to blend into Hawaiian society. Tia Carrere took on the role of Mrs. Kokoa, the social worker overseeing Lilo's case. Carrere, who voiced Nani in the original animated film, brought experience and cultural insight to this new character. Her performance added attention to the family drama, portraying a well-meaning but bureaucratic figure whose decisions threatened to separate the sisters. Amy Hill appeared as Tutu, providing warmth and grandmotherly wisdom to the supporting cast. Courtney B. Vance portrayed Cobra Bubbles, the imposing yet caring government agent. Vance infused the character with gravitas and subtle humor, making him more than just a menacing authority figure. Hannah Waddingham voiced the Grand Councilwoman, delivering authoritative and comedic lines with her distinctive commanding presence. Billy Magnussen's Plackley and other alien characters were rendered in a mix of practical effects, CGI, and puppetry for certain scenes. Additional cast members included Kaipo Dudoit as a key local figure, Jason Scott Lee as the Lua manager, and several young actors filling out Lilo's community and school environment, such as Celia Kenny as Adge and others portraying friends and neighbors. The ensemble emphasized Hawaiian and Pacific Islander representation, with many actors bringing personal connections to the culture. This casting choice was part of a broader push for authenticity in depicting Hawaiian life, language, and traditions. The voice cast for other experiments and background aliens included returning talent where appropriate, maintaining ties to the expanded Lilo Stitch universe from the animated series. Overall, the casting balanced star power for broader appeal with emerging talent and cultural specificity, creating a diverse ensemble that served both the emotional core and the comedic sci-fi elements. Plot and narrative structure. The 2025 film's narrative closely follows the original 2002 animated classic while introducing updates for modern audiences. It opens in the vastness of space with the Galactic Federation Tribunal. Dr. Jamba Jakaiba stands trial for creating Experiment 626, a destructive being designed for chaos. Stitch escapes custody and crash lands on Earth, specifically the island of Kauai in Hawaii. The film intercuts this with the everyday struggles of the Pulakai sisters. Lilo, a creative and lonely young girl, lives with her sister Nani in a modest home. Their parents have passed away in a car accident, leaving emotional scars. Nani works multiple jobs, including a Talua, to make ends meet while fighting to retain custody of Lilo against the scrutiny of social worker Mrs. Cocoa. Lilo feels isolated at school and desperately wants a friend. She visits the animal shelter and adopts what she believes is a doga, actually Stitch in disguise. She names him Stitch after seeing a picture of a supernova, symbolizing his explosive nature. As Stitch integrates into the family, his destructive tendencies create chaos but also bring unexpected joy. He helps mend fractures between Lilo and Nani through shared adventures. Meanwhile, Jamba and Plackley arrive on Earth disguised as tourists to recapture Stitch. Their bumbling efforts provide comic relief while escalating the stakes. Cobra Bubbles enters as a mysterious figure monitoring the situation, eventually revealing deeper layers to his character. Key sequences include beach outings, attempts to evade capture, and heartfelt family moments centered on the concept of Ohana. A family means nobody gets left behind. The film expands certain subplots, such as Nani's romantic interest David Kaina, played by Billy Magnuson in some descriptions, though casting varied in reports, and adds scenes highlighting Hawaiian culture like hula dancing, local traditions, and community support. The climax involves Stitch's choice between his programming for destruction and his adopted family. Alien forces converge on Hawaii, leading to action-packed sequences blending live-action stunts with heavy CGI. The resolution reaffirms themes of found family, redemption, and cultural resilience, while some reviewers noted the live-action version played it safer than the original, toning down Lilo's more extreme behaviors and adjusting character dynamics for broader appeal. The core message remained intact. Changes from the original included streamlined supporting characters, the introduction of new figures to update social service elements, an enhanced focus on environmental and cultural themes relevant to contemporary Hawaii. The runtime of approximately 112 minutes allowed for expanded character backstories without losing momentum. Production and direction: Dean Fleischer Camp directed the project, bringing his independent filmmaking sensibility to a major Disney production. Known for works emphasizing character-driven stories, Camp collaborated closely with screenwriters Chris Kakalani Bright and Mike Van Was. The screenplay aimed to honor the original while adapting it for live-action constraints and modern sensibilities. Producers included Jonathan Irook and Dan Lin, with Walt Disney Pictures and Rodback handling production. Filming took place in Hawaii and California, with significant location shooting in Kauai to capture authentic landscapes. The production emphasized practical Hawaiian sets, local hires, and consultation with cultural experts to avoid stereotypes. Challenges included coordinating live actors with CGI Stitch, who required extensive motion capture and animation work. Chris Sanders' voice performance was recorded with reference to on-set actions for better synchronization. The budget was estimated at around $100 million, reflecting the costs of visual effects, location shooting, and a full cast. Post-production focused on seamless integration of animated elements into live-action footage. The film was rated PG for mild action, thematic elements of laws, and some crude humor from Stitch's antics. Visual effects and design: bringing Stitch to life in a realistic world was a major technical achievement. The design team updated Stitch's appearance for photorealism while preserving his cute yet monstrous charm with large ears, big eyes, blue fur, and retractable features. Animators studied real animal movements combined with alien exaggeration. Multiple versions of Stitch were used, full CGI for dynamic action, partial practical effects for interactions, and puppetry in close-up emotional scenes. Hawaiian environments were rendered with high detail, from lush jungles to ocean waves, often enhanced with digital extensions. Alien technology, spaceships, and the Galactic Federation scenes featured sleek, futuristic designs contrasting sharply with Earth's natural beauty. Costume design incorporated traditional Hawaiian elements like aloha shirts, miumiu dresses, and leis, blended with contemporary clothing. The visual effects team worked to make the integration feel natural, particularly in scenes where Stitch interacts with water, sand, or household objects. Reviews highlighted strong creature animation as one of the film's technical highlights. Cultural representation and themes. A standout aspect of the 2025 film was its commitment to authentic Hawaiian representation. The production consulted with native Hawaiian advisors, incorporated Aloha Hawaiian language, dialogue with subtitles where appropriate, and featured traditional practices like hula, slaki guitar, and references to local folklore. This approach addressed criticisms of the original film's handling of cultural elements by deepening the portrayal of community, resilience, and connection to the land. Themes of family, belonging, and redemption were central. Lilo's journey from isolation to finding her ohana paralleled Stitch's arc from weapon to beloved family member. The film explored grief, the pressures of modern life on traditional communities, and the importance of acceptance. Social commentary on child welfare systems and cultural preservation added layers without overwhelming the family entertainment. Reception and performance. Upon release on May 23, 2025, the film achieved strong box office results, grossing over $423 million in the US and Canada alone, with worldwide totals exceeding $1 billion in some reports. It became one of the better-performing Disney live-action remakes. Audience scores were generally positive, praising the heart, humor, and visuals, though some longtime fans preferred the original's edgier tone. Critical consensus described it as charming and emotionally effective, if not revolutionary. Performances by Kealoha and Agudong received particular acclaim for carrying the emotional weight. The film sparked discussions about the value of remakes, cultural sensitivity in adaptations, and the enduring appeal of the Lilo Stitch franchise. Music and soundtrack. The score blended orchestral elements with Hawaiian musical traditions. Songs included updates to classics like Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride performed with new arrangements and original tracks reflecting the characters' journeys. Elvis Presley influences remained, tying into Lilo's love for the singer in the story. Sound design emphasized Stitch's destructive noises, alien tech whirs, and the natural sounds of Hawaii for immersive quality. Legacy in franchise potential. The 2025 film revitalized interest in the broader Lilo Stitch universe, potentially setting up sequels or series expansions. Its success demonstrated demand for culturally respectful adaptations. By maintaining core elements while updating for new generations, it introduced the story to fresh audiences while satisfying many nostalgic fans. The casting choices, particularly emerging Hawaiian talent, opened doors for greater representation in future Disney projects. Word count approximately 5,000. The article expands on available production details, cast contributions, narrative beats, technical aspects, and cultural elements drawn from public sources about the film. Development and pre-production. The journey toward bringing the beloved 2002 Disney animated classic Lilo Stitch back to the big screen in live-action form was a lengthy and winding one, marked by creative reshuffles, leadership changes, and a determined drive to honor the spirit of the original while reimagining it for a new generation of audiences. The development of the 2025 film stretches back to October 3, 2018. When Walt Disney Pictures officially announced it was working on a live-action and computer-generated animation hybrid remake of its own cherished animated feature. From the very beginning, the project was positioned as a prestige endeavor within Disney's growing portfolio of live-action adaptations of its animated classics, with producers Dan Lin and Jonathan Iroquois attached alongside co-producer Ryan Halpern. Mike Van Was was set to adapt the screenplay. Van Was wasted no time getting started. He revealed on October 24, 2018, that he had already begun work on the script. For roughly 2 years, the project moved quietly through the early stages of development without major public-facing news. That changed in November 2020, when trade publications reported that John M. Chu, the acclaimed director behind Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights, had entered talks to direct the film. The same reports indicated that Van Was had departed the project, and that Disney was actively searching for a new screenwriter to take over and rewrite the existing script. However, despite the initial buzz surrounding Chu's potential involvement, he ultimately did not direct the film. His other professional commitments pulled him away from the project, leaving the director's chair vacant once again. It was not until July 14, 2022, that Deadline Hollywood broke the news that Dean Fleischer-Camp had been selected to step into the director's role. Fleischer-Camp was best known at that point for Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, a critically adored film that blended live-action footage with stop-motion animation and demonstrated a distinctive talent for finding deep emotional resonance and unexpected, whimsical subject matter qualities that made him a compelling and inspired choice for a story as emotionally layered and tonally unique as Lilo Stitch. Alongside this announcement came the news that Chris Kakalani Bright was in talks to take on the rewriting duties, bringing fresh creative energy to Van Waz's original framework. By February 2023, Bright's involvement was fully confirmed. Interestingly, despite Van Waz's reported departure from the project years earlier, the Writers Guild of America West ultimately listed both Bright and Van Was as credited screenwriters on the finished film, a nuance that speaks to the layered and collaborative nature of Hollywood development. Van Was himself had welcomed Fleischer-Camp and Bright warmly via social media in July 2022, suggesting his ongoing connection to the production. During pre-production, the film was assigned the working title Bad Dog, a winking reference to Stitch's elaborate cover story as a household pet, while the production company specifically established for the project was given the name Blue Koala Pictures, Incorporated, a nod to the iconic description of the central character's peculiar physical appearance. These internal naming choices reflected the playful, self-aware spirit that Fleischer-Camp and his collaborators intended to bring to the finished film. One of the most eagerly watched questions in the early days of the film's pre-production was whether Chris Sanders, as the co-writer and co-director of the original animated film, as well as the original voice behind Stitch, would return to reprise his distinctive vocal performance. Sanders had created the character and originated the role, and the voice of Stitch had become one of the most recognizable in the Disney canon. In a September 2022 interview, Sanders acknowledged that Disney had not yet approached him about returning, but made clear that he would be open to reprising the role. His eventual involvement was confirmed in April 2023 when The Hollywood Reporter reported he was in final negotiations. Sanders ultimately participated in 5 separate voice recording sessions late into the production process, each session lasting approximately 4 hours. He later explained that maintaining the demanding and unconventional Stitch voice for such extended periods was an exhausting vocal challenge, underscoring the considerable effort behind what might seem like a straightforward casting continuation. One significant creative decision made during the development phase was the removal of the character Gantu, the large and imposing captain of the United Galactic Federation's Armada, who served as one of the primary antagonists in the original animated film. This decision was not made until the script writing stage but proved to be a defining choice for the remake's tone and structure. Director Fleischer-Camp advocated strongly for Gantu's removal, believing that the character's arrival on Earth in the original film shifted it into more conventional action movie territory. By eliminating Gantu and elevating Dr. Jamba Jakaiba into the central antagonist role, Fleischer-Camp felt the remake could establish a deeper, more thematically resonant conflict, one centered on a twisted but ultimately meaningful relationships between creator and creation. Fleischer-Camp described Jamba as a terrible delinquent father figure for Stitch, and argued that a great antagonist should embody the film's central themes, not simply function as a powerful external threat. The casting process for the film was extensive and, at several points, publicly contentious. A casting call was issued in November 2022, with the Coalition of Asian Pacifics in Entertainment publicly amplifying it via social media on November 22 of that year. The call made clear that Disney was prioritizing actors of Native Hawaiian, Polynesian, and Maori descent for the film's principal roles, reflecting the studio's stated commitment to authentic cultural representation, a value that had been central to the franchise since the original animated film celebrated Native Hawaiian culture with such warmth and sincerity. In February 2023, Zach Galifianakis joined the cast in a then unspecified capacity. Initial reports suggested he might be voicing Plackley, but by April 2023, The Hollywood Reporter confirmed that Galifianakis had officially signed on to voice Dr. Jamba Jakaiba instead and to physically portray a human disguise for the character named Marcus, based on a hotel employee whose appearance Jamba and Plackley copy upon arriving on Earth. Galifianakis' take on Jamba departed notably from the character's animated predecessor. The live-action version was described as more malicious and was given an American accent rather than the vaguely Russian-inflected accent of the original. In late March 2023, Maia Kealoha was cast in the lead role of Lilo Stitch, marking her feature film debut. Then in April 2023, Billy Magnuson was cast as the voice of Agent Wendell Plackley and also physically portrayed Plackley's human disguise while Sydney Agudong was cast as Nani Pulakai, Lilo's older sister and guardian. The castings of both Agudong and the initially cast David Kaina actor, Kei Yamamoto, quickly became subjects of intense public debate. Accusations of colorism and whitewashing circulated widely on social media, with critics arguing that the actors' lighter skin tones failed to accurately represent the complexions of the animated characters. Agudong is a mixed-race woman of Caucasian, Filipino, and Native Hawaiian heritage, born and raised on the very island of Kauai where the franchise is primarily set, yet this did not fully quiet the criticism. Her social media was flooded with negative comments relating to her casting. Machado's participation in the film was cut short not by the colorism controversy but by a separate issue. Internet users discovered that he had previously used a racial slur on his Spotify and Instagram accounts. Disney acted quickly and recast him with Kaipo Dude, who ultimately portrayed David Kaina in the finished film. Machado issued a public apology via Instagram on April 27, 2023. Further casting additions in April 2023 included Courtney B. Vance as Cobra Bubbles, here reimagined as a CIA agent rather than a social worker, though he goes undercover as a social director to investigate Stitch's presence. And two alumni from the original animated franchise, Tia Carrere, who had voiced Nani in the original film and subsequent animated media, was cast in the new role of Mrs. Kokoa, the social worker, and Amy Hill, who had voiced Mrs. Haskawa, was cast as Tata, the Pulakai family's longtime neighbor and David Kaina's grandmother, a character original to the remake. Hannah Waddingham joined the cast as the voice of the Grand Councilwoman, the alien leader of the United Galactic Federation. In June 2023, it was confirmed that Jason Scott Lee, who had voiced David Kaina in the original film and its 2005 direct-to-video sequel, would appear in a cameo as the manager of Jimmy's Luau, the resort where Nani and David work. A bittersweet footnote to the film's casting history came with the passing of David Hakili Kanui Bell on June 12, 2025, nearly 3 weeks after the film's release. At the age of 46, Bell had played the big Hawaiian dude in the film, a reimagined version of the non-speaking Ice Cream Man character from the animated productions. Lilo Stitch was Bell's feature film debut. He had previously appeared in minor roles in the television series Hawaii 5-0 and Magnum P.I. Filming principal photography for Lilo Stitch presented logistical challenges from the very outset, but it was rooted in an unwavering creative commitment. Director Dean Fleischer-Camp and his team were absolutely determined to shoot the entire film on location in Hawaii. Fleischer-Camp stated openly that he believed there was simply no adequate substitute for the real thing, that the textures, light, energy, and spirit of the Hawaiian Islands were irreplaceable elements of the story being told, and that attempting to recreate them on a soundstage or through digital environments would fundamentally undermine the film's authenticity. While the franchise is set primarily on the island of Kauai, Fleischer-Camp acknowledged that he could not shoot there due to what he vaguely described as boring logistical reasons, and so the island of Oahu became the primary filming location. Principal photography was originally scheduled to begin on Oahu on March 13, 2023. With an expected completion date of June 16 of the same year. However, before a single frame could be captured, the production suffered an alarming setback. On the evening of April 16, 2023, a fire broke out in a trailer located within the film's base camp at Haliwa. The blaze burned for roughly 2 hours before being extinguished in the early hours of April 17. and while no injuries were reported, the financial damage was estimated at approximately $200,000. Critically, the trailer contained costumes that had been prepared for the first 3 weeks of filming, meaning that a significant portion of the wardrobe department's work had been destroyed before cameras even rolled. The Honolulu Police Department investigated the incident and classified it as first-degree arson, opening a formal criminal inquiry. Filming was delayed indefinitely while the production recovered, and the first day of actual shooting was pushed back to April 17 before being moved further to May 1, 2023, when the closing of a portion of the Kalaniao Highway was documented in connection with the production. Once filming finally commenced in earnest, the production worked to bring the world of the Pulakai family to vivid, grounded life using real Hawaiian locations. The Pulakai family house was a purpose-built temporary structure constructed at Kualoa Ranch, a working cattle ranch and filming location on Oahu's northeast shore that has served as the backdrop for dozens of major Hollywood productions. The structure was erected in an area of the ranch near where some of the ranch managers actually lived, lending it a sense of genuine residential context. For the luau scenes, a real luau venue called Germain's was rebranded as the fictional Jimmy's Luau for the duration of filming. The fictional Humaluia Resort and Spa, where Nani secures her surfing instructor job, was portrayed by the Kahala Hotel and Resort. Filming proceeded through the spring and into the summer of 2023, but was ultimately suspended in July due to the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike, the historic industry-wide work stoppage that brought Hollywood productions to a standstill. The strike followed on the heels of the 2023 Writers Guild of America strike, meaning the production had already been navigating a period of labor unrest even before filming began. After both strikes concluded, the production of Lilo Stitch resumed in February 2024 and wrapped up in early March of that year, completing the principal photography phase some 11 months after it had originally been slated to begin. Post-production on Lilo Stitch was dominated by the monumental task of bringing Stitch and the film's central CGI character to convincing, emotive life in a photorealistic environment. The visual effects were led by Disney-owned Industrial Light and Magic, widely regarded as one of the world's premier visual effects studios. Craig Hammack served as the film's visual effects supervisor, and he noted that he first became deeply involved in the project during serious discussions in the fall of 2022. The scale and complexity of the visual effects work ultimately proved to require the contributions of multiple additional vendors alongside ILM, Luma Pictures, Moving Picture Company, Sony Pictures Imageworks, Untold Studios, Crafty Apes, Atomic Arts, and Cantina Creative all contributed to the finished film's effects. In total, the final cut contains 1,673 discrete visual effects shots, an enormous number that reflects the sheer density of integration between the live-action footage and the CGI character at the heart of the story. One of the most ingenious and consequential decisions made during pre-production with direct implications for the post-production workflow was the use of animatronic puppet stand-ins for Stitch on set. ILM recognized early on that one of the greatest risks of the production would be obtaining genuine, emotionally authentic performances from the human cast members, particularly the child actress playing Lilo, when they would be reacting to an entirely computer-generated character who had no physical presence on set. Rather than asking the actors to imagine Stitch into existence, ILM hired Legacy Effects, a renowned practical effects and creature shop to build multiple animatronic puppet versions of Stitch. The puppets were constructed to approximate Stitch's size, appearance, and presence, including one version specifically engineered to be suitable for underwater scenes. Legacy Effects also dispatched puppeteer Seth Hayes to Hawaii to operate the puppets throughout filming. Critically, the puppets never appear in the finished film. They were created solely to provide cast members, especially Maia Kealoha as Lilo, with a tangible, physical scene partner capable of generating the kinds of spontaneous, genuine emotional reactions that can be so difficult to replicate when reacting to an invisible presence or a tennis ball on a stick. For certain scenes in which Lilo initially mistakes Stitch for a dog, a French bulldog named Dale physically portrayed Stitch's canine cover, adding another layer of texture to the on-set production. In post-production, both the puppet and dog stand-ins were carefully erased from all the footage, a process that visual effects supervisor Hammock described as resulting in a great deal of messy plate clean-up as artists painstakingly removed every trace of the physical stand-ins from the raw footage. The effort was universally considered worth the cost, as the alternative asking the cast to react to nothing risked producing stale performances that would undermine the film's emotional core. The work of animating the CGI Stitch himself was guided by a specific philosophical mandate. The animators sought to capture the essential spirit and visual essence of the original two-dimensional animated character while making him feel genuinely at home in a photorealistic three-dimensional world. This required threading an extraordinarily fine needle. Stitch needed to look and move in a way that evoked the original without literally translating a flat cartoon into 3 dimensions, which would have appeared jarring and unconvincing. The animators also deliberately avoided a shot-for-shot approach to recreating the original film, though they did study and closely follow the composition of certain iconic shots for key emotional moments in the remake. One acknowledged challenge that the filmmakers deliberately left unaddressed within the film's internal logic was the fact that Stitch is canonically supposed to be extremely dense and heavy. Yet Lilo is able to pick him up and carry him, an inconsistency they chose to let slide in service of the story's emotional beats. The post-production period was also complicated by an unexpected crisis when Moving Picture Company suddenly went into administration, a form of insolvency proceedings in the United Kingdom, just 6 weeks before their contracted deadline for delivering their portion of the visual effects work. This abrupt collapse forced ILM to scramble on extremely short notice to identify and commission other vendors capable of completing MPC's shots within the existing timeline. The experience underscored the fragility of the film industry's complex, globally distributed visual effects supply chain, and highlighted the enormous pressure under which these productions operate. Music. The musical dimension of the 2025 Lilo Stitch remake was treated with considerable care and intentionality, honoring the original film's celebrated soundtrack while also introducing several new musical elements that expanded the sonic world of the story. Dan Romer was confirmed as the film's composer on February 3, 2025, bringing his considerable gifts for emotionally sensitive, textually rich scoring to a project that required music capable of bridging the whimsical, science fiction elements of the story with its deeply human core of family, belonging, and unconditional love. The original Lilo Stitch animated film had been unusual among Disney animated features for its heavy incorporation of Elvis Presley's rock and roll catalog, a choice that gave the film a distinctive, offbeat personality entirely its own. The 2025 remake preserved and celebrated this musical identity by incorporating nearly all of the original film songs, including the Elvis Presley classics that had defined so much of the original's character. You're the Devil in Disguise, Como Hound Dog, and Heartbreak Hotel all returned. Joining them was a newly commissioned cover of Presley's Burning Love, which was produced by Bruno Mars himself, a Hawaiian-born artist, and performed by his nephews, performing under the names Nija Music and Zaya Rhythm. The inclusion of a Mars-produced Elvis cover brought the film's music into conversation with a living Hawaiian musical legacy, creating a pleasing continuity between the past and the present. Among the most emotionally significant musical choices in the remake was the return of Aloha, the beloved traditional Hawaiian song composed by Queen Liliuokalani that had appeared prominently throughout the animated franchise. In the remake, the song was performed as a duet by Sydney Agudong and Maia Kealoha, singing as Nani and Lilo respectively, a deeply moving choice that rooted the film's most tender emotional moment in an authentic expression of Hawaiian musical heritage and the bond between the two sisters. The performance was also a striking demonstration of the casting choice's rightness. 2 young Hawaiian women singing one of the most iconic songs in Hawaiian history, giving voice to characters who had long been beloved by audiences worldwide. The film also featured a newly recorded original Hawaiian language song, Hele Pepai no Lilo Stitch, performed by Markiali Ho'omalu and the Kamehameha School's Children's Chorus. It is notable that the chorus's director, Lionel K. Bright, is the mother of screenwriter Chris Kakaniakalani Bright, adding a beautiful personal dimension to the musical collaboration. Both Ho'omalu and the Kamehameha School's children's chorus had contributed to the original 2002 film, making their return a meaningful act of continuity and respect for the franchise's musical roots. A new version of Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride Day, one of the most joyfully ebullient songs from the original film, was recorded by American Idol Season 21 winner I Am Tongi alongside the Kamehameha School's children's chorus. The track was released as a single on May 9, 2025. Ahead of a live performance of the version on Season 23 of American Idol on May 12, bringing the song back into mainstream pop cultural consciousness in an exciting and widely watched moment. The full soundtrack album was released by Walt Disney Records on May 21, 2025, 2 days before the film's wide domestic release. For collectors and enthusiasts, a limited edition picture disc 10-inch vinyl single featuring 3 of the film's songs was released on May 23, the same day as the film itself. Released theatrical. The road to a theatrical release for the 2025 Lilo Stitch film was itself something of an unexpected journey. When the project was first announced in October 2018, Disney had not yet determined whether it would be released theatrically or through its streaming service, Disney+. By November 2022, however, when casting calls were officially issued, it was confirmed via those materials that the film was being produced for a direct-to-streaming Disney Plus release, a decision that reflected the streaming-first approach Disney had adopted for several productions during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. That plan underwent a significant reversal in August 2024, when Disney announced at the D23 fan convention that Lilo Stitch had been repositioned as a theatrical summer release for 2025. This shift was accompanied by the first public reveal of the film's CGI Stitch design, which received a broadly positive reaction from both industry observers and the franchise's devoted fan community. The official release date of May 23, 2025 was confirmed in October 2024. The theatrical release was made available across multiple premium formats, including RealD 3D, Dolby Cinema, and 4DX, offering audiences a range of immersive viewing options. AMC Theaters hosted a special opening night fan event in Dolby Cinema, Regal Cinemas held a fan event in 4DX, and Cinemark Theaters organized a super ticket package fan event in RealD 3D on the evening of May 22, beginning at 6:26 p.m. a time chosen as a deliberate reference to Stitch's experiment number 626. The film held its world premiere at the historic El Capitan Theater in Los Angeles on May 17, 2025, the same storied venue that had hosted the premiere of the original 2002 animated film, a choice that underscored the continuity between the two productions and paid tribute to the film's heritage. The Motion Picture Association rated the film PG, making it notably the first Disney live-action remake to receive the same rating as the original animated film it was based upon. The marketing campaign for Lilo Stitch was elaborate, sustained, and consistently inventive, centered on the irresistible quality of the CGI Stitch character and his mischievous personality. The campaign launched in earnest in November 2024. With the first teaser poster, an extreme close-up of Stitch's face, published on November 22, followed by the first teaser trailer on November 25. The teaser showed Stitch gleefully destroying a sandcastle modeled on Cinderella's castle, cheekily subverting the Disney production logo. On November 27, the same day as the wide release of Moana 2A, to which the first teaser trailer was theatrically attached, a new crossover poster was revealed featuring Stitch with the Kookaburra from the Moana franchise in his mouth, evoking the original film's famous marketing campaign in which Stitch had invaded the promotional materials of other Disney animated features. On December 18, 2024, 2 days before the release of Mufasa, The Lion King, a second crossover campaign was launched. A new teaser trailer attached to Mufasa in theaters showed Stitch, wearing inflatable water wings, being held aloft in a deliberate echo of the iconic presentation of baby Simba in The Lion King. An accompanying poster replaced Rafiki with Stitch in the same iconic pose, directly referencing one of the most beloved crossover images from the original film's marketing. The campaign built steadily through the winter with the Super Bowl Licks television spot released on February 9, 2025. Featuring Stitch apparently interrupting the game's kickoff at Caesars Superdome. The spot was an enormous success, generating 173.1 million online views in just 24 hours and the most digitally viewed spot in Disney's entire corporate history. The official full-length trailer arrived on March 12, 2025, a deliberately chosen as the 63rd birthday of Lilo Stitch creator Chris Sanders and introduced audiences to the human caster and their performances for the first time. Its release caused Lilo Stitch to trend at #1 simultaneously on X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, Indian, the Chinese version of TikTok, reaching the top of YouTube within an hour of being posted. Disney announced on March 14 that the trailer had accumulated 158 million views within its first 24 hours, making it the company's second most viewed live-action film trailer in history within that timeframe, behind only the 2019 The Lion King teaser, which had gathered 224.6 million views. The marketing campaign continued into the spring with a series of posters inspired by past Disney live-action remakes and a sweeping CinemaCon poster featuring Stitch wreaking havoc across the Disney corporate universe. From Marvel to Pixar to Lucasfilm, the marketing budget for the film was reported by the New York Times to be at least $75 million. In the weeks before release, animatronic Stitch figures appeared at movie theaters, shopping malls, and even at Elvis Presley's Graceland in Memphis, Tennessee, popping out of popcorn buckets and driving miniature Power Wheels-style toy cars. Home media. Following a successful theatrical run, Lilo Stitch transitioned to home media platforms on a structured release schedule. The film became available for digital download on July 22, 2025, allowing audiences to purchase or rent the film through standard digital storefronts. Physical media editions including Ultra HD Blu-ray, Standard Blu-ray, and DVD arrived on August 26, 2025. The home media package was assembled with care for fans and collectors, including deleted scenes, a gag reel, director's commentary, and various featurettes offering behind-the-scenes insight into the film's production, visual effects, and music. The film's streaming premiere on Disney Plus followed on September 3, 2025. In the United Kingdom, Lilo Stitch debuted at the #1 position on the official film chart and the weekly home entertainment sales chart for the week ending July 30. Reflecting strong consumer demand for the physical and digital versions even before the UK streaming release. In the United States, the film debuted at #1 on the Circana Video Scan combined DVD and Blu-ray sales chart as well as the dedicated Blu-ray sales chart for the week ending August 30, the first full week after the physical media release. High-definition formats accounted for 54% of the film's first week's sales, with standard Blu-ray comprising 44% and 4K Ultra HD editions accounting for the remaining 10%. The film remained atop both the combined chart and the dedicated Blu-ray chart in the following week ending September 6, demonstrating remarkable staying power. On Disney Plus, the film's performance was similarly impressive. Lilo Stitch was viewed 14.3 million times in the 5 days following its streaming premiere, placing it as the platform's second most streamed live-action Disney film debut in history, behind only The Little Mermaid from 2023. Nielsen Media Research, which tracks streaming viewership on U.S. television screens, reported that the film was streamed for 803 million minutes during the week of September 1 through 7, making it the third most streamed film of that week. In the following week, September 8 through 14, the film remained in the third position with 399 million minutes of viewing time. The week of September 15 through 21 saw it drop to sixth most streamed, with 270 million minutes, and the subsequent week it placed ninth with 157 million minutes, a standard pattern of gradual decline that nonetheless reflected a sustained audience appetite for the film well into its streaming lifecycle. Reception box office. The box office performance of Lilo Stitch exceeded even the most optimistic early projections and ultimately established the film as a landmark in the history of the live-action/animated hybrid film genre. Pre-sale tracking offered early signs that the film would perform well. Fandango Media reported that it had become the best first-day ticket pre-seller of the year for a PG-rated film, surpassing high-profile titles including a Minecraft movie, Snow White, Dog Man, and the U.S. release of Paddington in Peru. Among Disney remakes specifically, only the pre-sales for the 2019 The Lion King had exceeded those of Lilo Stitch on the first day that tickets were made available. The film was released into a busy marketplace on May 23, 2025, opening alongside Mission: Impossible at the Final Reckoning. Initial tracking had projected a domestic gross of approximately $165 million over the four-day Memorial Day holiday weekend. The film immediately outpaced those projections after generating $55 million on its first day of release, including $14.5 million from Thursday evening preview screenings. Projections were revised upward to the $175–180 million range. By Sunday, May 25, forecasts had climbed further to $183 million for the four-day weekend, which if achieved would break Top Gun: Maverick's standing record for the highest Memorial Day weekend debut of $160 million. The final numbers more than fulfilled those projections. Lilo Stitch earned $146 million over the traditional three-day opening weekend and $182.6 million across the full four-day Memorial Day frame, setting a new all-time record for that holiday corridor. The film's domestic hold over the following weeks was exceptionally strong. In its second weekend, it turned $61.8 million, a decline of 58% from opening weekend, which is considered a healthy hold for a blockbuster of the scale, and in the process surpassed the entire domestic lifetime gross of the original 2002 animated film, which had earned $273.1 million. Lilo Stitch remained at number one at the domestic box office for 3 consecutive weekends, earning $32.4 million in its third frame. It was finally displaced from the top position in its fourth weekend by How to Train Your Dragon, itself a live-action animated remake of a film originally written and directed by Chris Sanders alongside Dean DeBlos. The coincidence of Sanders being central to both franchises gave the transition a certain poetic quality. Lilo Stitch closed its domestic run as the third highest-grossing film of 2025 in the United States and Canada, finishing behind only Zootopia 2 and a Minecraft movie. Internationally, the film performed with comparable strength across most major territories. The combined domestic gross of $423.8 million and international gross of $614.2 million produced a worldwide total of $1.038 billion, making Lilo Stitch the fourth highest-grossing film of 2025 globally. On July 17, 2025, the film crossed the $1 billion threshold, becoming the first Hollywood production of 2025 and only the second film of any origin released that year after the Chinese animated blockbuster Ne Zha 2 to achieve that milestone. It was also the first adaptation of a Disney animated film to surpass $1 billion since The Lion King remake in 2019, in surpassing $563 million. Lilo Stitch eclipsed The Smurfs from 2011 to become the highest-grossing live-action/animated hybrid film in cinema history, and the first film of its kind to ever cross the billion-dollar mark. Critical response. Critical reception for Lilo Stitch was decidedly mixed to positive, with the film proving more divisive among professional critics than its massive box office performance might suggest, while winning over general audiences quite convincingly. On Rotten Tomatoes, the leading review aggregator. 72% of 217 collected critics' reviews were positive. The site's official critical consensus stated that the film succeeds in recapturing the adorable charm of the original, if not quite matching its rambunctious sense of imagination, emerging as one of the better live-action remakes of a Disney classic. Metacritic, which employs a weighted average scoring system, assigned the film a score of 53 out of 100 based on 39 reviewed critics, placing it in the mixed or average category. Audience responses were substantially warmer. Audiences surveyed by CinemaScore, at the market research firm that polls opening night moviegoers, gave the film an average grade of A on their A+ to F scale, matching the grade that the original 2002 animated film had received and indicating a powerful positive response from those who saw it opening weekend. Post-track audience surveys were similarly enthusiastic, with 90% of respondents giving the film an overall positive score and 81% indicating that they would definitely recommend it to others. Among the positive critical voices, Brando New of the New York Times described the film as a moderately fun, mostly serviceable and often adorable revamp, while Nell Minogue of RogerRabbit.com awarded it 3 stars out of 4, praising its capacity to deliver gross-out humor, slapstick naughtiness, and the reassuring theme that families of all kinds, including those we choose, can be devoted to the idea of Ohana. IGN's Eric Goldman was among the most enthusiastic mainstream critics, giving the film 8 out of 10 and declaring it one of the better Disney live-action remakes. Helen O'Hara of Empire gave it 3 stars out of 5, acknowledging that Fleischer Camp brought a light touch and a good human cast to the project while noting that it was never as clear and bright as its source material. Negative reviews tended to be more pointed. Jesse Hassinger of The Guardian gave the film just 1 star out of 5. Arguing that Fleischer Camp failed to give the human or CGI characters adequate technical or emotional support in their shared scenes. Bill Jabiri of Vulture offered a withering assessment of the fundamental challenge the remake faced, that the original Lilo Stitch was so entirely of a piece, its form and its emotional essence so perfectly integrated, that any remake was destined to feel like an attempt to re-engineer a miracle rather than create a genuinely new work. This was a sentiment shared in various forms by several other critics who felt that the remake, however technically accomplished and emotionally genuine in its intentions, could not fully escape the shadow of the beloved original. Several specific creative decisions in the remake became focal points for critical commentary. The removal of Plackley's drag disguise, a memorable comedic element of the original that had also taken on resonance for LGBTQ+ audiences over the years, drew criticism from those who felt it represented an unnecessary sanitization. The absence of Gantu was noted by many reviewers who had expected the character to appear. The new characterization of Jamba, a more malicious, more directly threatening, positioned as the film's central antagonist, received mixed reactions, with some critics appreciating the deeper thematic integration Fleischer Camp had intended and others finding the departure from the lovable, bumbling original to be a loss. The decision to have Nani surrender her guardianship of Lilo, a significant plot departure from the animated film in which that crisis is nearly averted, was also debated, with critics and audiences divided on whether it represented a meaningful narrative evolution or an uncharacteristic darkening of the story's emotional resolution. Despite its mixed critical standing, Lilo Stitch earned recognition in several award contexts. The character of Stitch received a nomination for Outstanding Character in a Photoreal Feature at the 24th Visual Effects Society Awards, acknowledging the exceptional technical craft that had gone into his digital creation. The film received a nomination for Best Movie for Children at the 2026 Movie Guide Awards, and was nominated for Best Children's and Family Film at the 79th British Academy Film Awards. At the 53rd Saturn Awards, the film earned a nomination for Best Fantasy Film, while Maia Kealoha received a personal nomination for Best Younger Performer in a Film, a recognition of the remarkable naturalism and emotional depth she brought to the central role of Lilo in her feature film debut. The success of the 2025 Lilo Stitch film also set the stage for the franchise's continued expansion. In the period before the film's release, director Fleischer Camp and producer Eric had been cautious about discussing sequel plans, emphasizing their focus on the existing film and noting that any future direction would depend on audience reception. Fleischer-Camp subsequently indicated in June 2025 that he would be open to a sequel if the right creative idea emerged, and expressed particular interest in the possibility of an animated spin-off series as well. On June 26, 2025, a known in fan circles as 626th Day or Stitch Day in honor of the character's experiment number 8, Disney officially announced that the sequel was in active development. Crucially, Chris Sanders was announced as the sequel's screenwriter, marking his first creative involvement in the franchise beyond voicing Stitch since the original 2002 film. Jonathan Iruk was confirmed to return as producer, and the sequel was given a working title of Lilo Stitch 2 with a scheduled release date of May 26, 2028. There's something down on the field, that thing is indestructible. Stitch Gone Wild. Disney has debuted a very fun 30-second Super Bowl spot for Lilo Stitch, the 2025 live-action remake of the beloved 2002 animated classic. This spot is riffing on the big game, referencing the original marketing campaign that was often playing on all the other entertainment. Directed by Dean Fleischer-Camp, the Oscar-nominated filmmaker from the lovely film Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, co-director of the original Chris Sanders also returns to voice Stitch. Also featuring Sydney Elizabeth Agudong as Nani, Billy Magnuson, Tia Carrere, Hannah Waddingham, with Courtney B. Vance, and Zach Galifianakis, introducing Maia Kealoha as Lilo. Stitch is just messing around and getting into trouble running on this football field. Still waiting to see an actual trailer for this movie due out in May this summer movie season. Can you catch him? Here's the funny Super Bowl TV spot for Dean Fleischer-Camp's live-action Lilo Stitch, from YouTube. Play. You can re-watch last year's teasers for the live-action Lilo Stitch movie right here for more shenanigans. A remake of the 2002 animated movie that's written directed by Dean DeBlois Chris Sanders, telling the story of the bond formed between a lonely human girl named Lilo and artificially created koala-like extraterrestrial named Stitch, who's engineered to be a force of destruction. Other aliens, social workers, and the warmth of the bond of family figure into the proceedings. Lilo Stitch is directed by American filmmaker Dean Fleischer-Camp, director of the beloved Marcel the Shell with Shoes On film, plus many other short films, docs, and other clever projects. The screenplay is written by Chris Kakalani Bright, based on the original Lilo Stitch movie written by Chris Sanders. Dean DeBlois, produced by Jonathan Iruk and Dan Lin, made by Walt Disney Pictures and Redback Productions. Disney will release the new Lilo Stitch movie in theaters nationwide starting on May 23, 2025 this summer. Still excited for this? There are two types of people who won't like the live-action remake of Lilo Stitch. The first group consists of those lacking in whimsy and or empathy. The second group, probably the larger group, includes those who were die-hard fanatics of the original. Anyone who can quote Lilo Stitch dialogue from memory will feel a bit disappointed in the 2025 version of the story. That's because the film takes a different approach to the same territory. I'd expect in a broad strokes recreation of the original. After all, why would you mess with perfection? Instead, Lilo Stitch takes the same characters and positions them in slightly different settings, thereby altering the beloved story that many fans know by heart. Does that strategy pay dividends? Here's my review of Lilo Stitch, a charming tale that will delight almost everyone but isn't as good as the original. About the Lilo Stitch franchise: for those of you who have never read my writing, there's a running joke in my household. Whenever new Stitch merchandise comes out, I know I'm buying it. My wife loves Lilo Stitch probably more than she loves me. We were early on the bandwagon for the charming original film that somehow fell beneath the radar during its theatrical release in 2002. As proof, consider that Chicken Little, a Disney movie without the significant pop culture imprint, earned $40 million more in theaters when it came out 3 years later. Of course, focusing on the box office misses the point a bit. Stitch has since become a merchandising juggernaut of the highest order, a fact that Disney may have overlooked for too long. After years of searching for the data, I recently learned from the Wall Street Journal, hat tip to Justin Hermes, that Stitch merch earned Disney $2.6 billion last year. So, we're long overdue for new Lilo Stitch content, at least domestically. You probably don't know this, but there's a Chinese series called Stitch that came out in 2017. That deal only happened because Chinese fans have fallen in love with Stitch to a fairly epic degree. In America, Lilo Stitch content has been largely ignored. Weirdly, that fact plays in Disney's favor now, as the people who loved the film and its follow-up, a Disney Channel series, have aged by 20 years. Now, many of them are parents and can share their love of the characters with their own children. And the core concept of Lilo Stitch has resonated over the years. By this point, the words are like a mantra to Disney fans. Ohana means family, and family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. About my connection to Lilo Stitch a few days ago, based on a suggestion by Tori Carl, I explained why I was nerve-optimistic about the Lilo Stitch remake. I've known for a while that the movie would absolutely eviscerate the box office and have said as much. That Lilo Stitch Super Bowl ad was like a license to print money. From that moment forward, the film was always going to be a blockbuster. So, the financial viability of Lilo Stitch has never been a concern. For my family, it's the fact that my wife willingly chooses to spend her birthday breakfasts at Ohana. She does that so that she can start her birthday at the best friend's breakfast featuring Lilo Stitch. Basically, she wants to hug Stitch on her birthday. She didn't do that this year, but she has done it at least 6 times over the past decade, which means more than half of her birthdays. It's a thing. Similarly, we used to have one of those red wagons, and she stuffed the entire thing with Stitch stuffed animals. At the movie theater tonight, we bought a Stitch popcorn bucket, a Stitch head, it's a refillable mug, I guess, and some sort of Stitch mystery box. This isn't an unusual date for us. It's been my life ever since I took her to that movie in 2002. She's got literally hundreds of pieces of Stitch merchandise. And I get it. Back in my previous life as a movie critic, Lilo Stitch finished in my top 10 in 2002, and my opinion of it has only increased since then. Spirited Away and it would be in my top 4. And that's even accounting for the fact that 2002 was an amazing year in cinema. About the Lilo Stitch remake, my personal connection to Lilo Stitch and fondness for the first film explains why I felt extreme trepidation when I entered the theater for the remake. I knew that if the movie weren't good, it would hurt my heart. Even worse, it'd crush my wife. She's one of those people I mentioned who could recite every line of dialogue. And I also knew that this film had originally been a straight-to-streaming release, which meant that it was going to have a lower budget. Disney eventually spent $100 million on the film, depending on who you believe, but that wasn't the initial plan. For this reason, the script faced financial restrictions. Do you know the biggest expense for the live-action remake of Lilo Stitch? It's Stitch. You can pay actors to play Lilo, Nani, and Cobra Bubbles. Stitch requires computer animation for every moment he's on screen, and that gets expensive. Where am I going with this? There are moments you expect in this film that never happen. Without doing spoilers, I'll mention that Captain Gantu isn't in Lilo Stitch 2025. You can imagine what that does to the plot. And that's the point. Lilo Stitch is a charming movie you may know in general terms where the story is going, but I can assure you that the new film plays out much differently than the original. Die-hard fans probably won't enjoy some of the changes, either. I won't list specifics. However, my wife definitely shared the list of grievances as we left the theater. Long story short, Disney dialed down Stitch in favor of some of the other characters in the film, and it works. This is a charming movie. More importantly, Disney delivers precisely the family film its critics have been begging the company to do for several years now. Lilo Stitch returns Disney to its roots. As a standalone title, it'd charm audiences with its natural warmth and spirit. The problem, at least in my household, is that it's not the original. For all the grief that Disney gets when it creates live-action remakes eerily similar to the originals, that's what I wish had happened here. The new version of the film leaves out a few of my favorite moments, many of which involve Stitch, in favor of character development for others. Nani benefits greatly from this decision, with actress Sydney Elizabeth Agudong delivering a star-making performance, and child actress Maia Kealoha is the ideal version of Lilo. So, The news here is relatively good. I fully expect that the overwhelming majority of people who watch this live-action remake will adore it. But to Broken Bar final thoughts, the first thing I asked my wife afterward was whether the movie had broken her heart, a possibility we dreaded for years. She happily confirmed that it didn't. Thankfully, the biggest Stitch fan I know enjoyed the Lilo Stitch remake, as did I. Still, we left the theater certain of one thing: the original is better. This is a time when Disney shouldn't have strayed so far from the source material. Lilo Stitch, 2025, provides a warm hug of a movie-going experience, the kind we all crave. However, the original film is objectively better because it understands that Stitch is the star. The new version substantially dials back his character growth arc, a decision I found detrimental to the final product. Right now, I'm describing a movie I'd give an 8.5 out of 10 and warmly recommend to one and all. The catch is that the original Lilo Stitch is a 10 out of 10. So, I'm happy with the movie I watched, but I'll always choose the animated version when I want to watch Lilo Stitch. Thanks for visiting mickeyblog.com. Want to go to Disney? For a free quote on your next Disney vacation, please fill out the form below, and one of the agents from Mickey Travels, a diamond-level authorized Disney vacation planner, will be in touch. So Chris Sanders is negotiating to write Lilo Stitch 2, but there is no word regarding the planned extent of his involvement. Chris Sanders is in negotiations to write Lilo Stitch 2, according to The Hollywood Reporter. While the deal has not been finalized at this time, the report suggests that Sanders is only negotiating to write the upcoming sequel to the 2025 live-action remake of Lilo Stitch. At present, there is no indication that Sanders is also being asked to direct that sequel. For that matter, there has been no indication that Disney even has a preferred director for the project in mind, which makes sense given that Lilo Stitch 2 likely won't begin production for quite some time. Still, Sanders would have to be considered a top candidate for the director's chair, along with voicing Stitch in both the original film and its remake, as well as several other pieces of media. Sanders co-wrote and co-directed the 2002 original and co-wrote the 2025 remake. He's been as involved in the creation of this incredibly successful franchise as anyone else. Considering that Lilo Stitch recently became the first Hollywood movie of 2025 to cross the $1 billion mark at the global box office, it's easy to imagine that Sanders will be allowed to be as involved with the sequel as he chooses to be. Of course, the elephant in the room is that the Lilo Stitch remake became a global box office sensation despite largely negative, generously mixed, reviews from critics and even some viewers. While there was always love for the original Lilo Stitch movie, as well as the Lilo Stitch show, it's been quite surprising to watch that concept grow into the juggernaut that it has suddenly become. Expectations for the sequel are suddenly quite high, and its budget will likely grow alongside them. Whatever happens next, this Lilo Stitch 2 will almost certainly be bigger than the 2005 direct-to-video sequel Lilo Stitch 2. Stitch has a glitch. Personally, I would approve of a leave the screenplay, take the title approach. I think I've finally gotten to the root of Disney's obsession with live-action remakes. The problem stems from an integral component with any relationship, even relationships when money and entertainment are involved: the element of trust. It's clear that Disney doesn't trust audiences to keep their legacy titles alive. My theory dates back to Walt Disney's tradition of giving theatrical re-releases to some of their most popular films prior to the VHS era. The advent of the Disney Channel even made the classics more visible, such as when a film would run after a highly anticipated episode of Hannah Montana or That's So Raven. Perhaps the phenomenon of streaming complicated this further. Even with Disney Plus, beloved titles have to fight to be chosen over Bluey. The executives have seemingly decided the only way to keep their legacy intellectual properties alive with newer generations is to turn them into live-action remakes. Never mind that no one asked for them. The latest film to get the live-action treatment is a favorite of mine, Lilo Stitch. Unlike Snow White, I came into my viewing experience with a soft spot for the original film from 2002, as it was an essential assist to long childhood car rides. In fact, the group chat where my family keeps in touch with my godnieces named Ohana, which further negates the idea that Disney legacy is lost on younger audiences. But Disney, knowing that would require them to actually be in touch with their audience, Lilo Stitch hits the main beats of the original film. Nani Palakai, Sydney Elizabeth Agudong, is struggling to make ends meet as the guardian of her 6-year-old sister Lilo, Maia Kealoha, after their parents died. Nani tries to balance the relationships between guardian and sister, as she's also working to appease their social worker, Miss Kakoa, Tiakarere, so they aren't split up, with Lilo put into a foster home by social services, as Nani grapples with being the perfect guardian and placing her dreams of being a marine biologist on the back burner. Lilo struggles with loneliness. Lilo's longing for a best friend seems to be answered when, while volunteering at the animal shelter, she notices a peculiar-looking dog, which turns out to be Experiment 626, also known as Stitch, voiced by Chris Sanders, who also co-directed the original, an alien masquerading as a canine. Stitch is on the run from his creator, Dr. Jamba Jakaiba, Zach Galifianakis, who has recently been imprisoned by the United Galactic Federation for creating Stitch as a biological weapon. Jamba is paired with Earth expert agent Pleckley, Billy Magnuson, whose mission is to retrieve Stitch from Earth and return him to the Federation. As Lilo and Stitch grow closer, their bond is threatened not only by Kokoa, Jamba, and Pleckley, but by Agent Cobra Bubbles, Courtney B. Vance, from the CIA, who poses as a social worker with intentions to gain intel on Stitch. The movie still infuses the themes of family that the original harked upon. I'm not totally anti-live action. In fact, I think some films like Alvin and the Chipmunks actually did a really nice job bringing a beloved property to screen and inviting new audiences to the franchise. However, this Lilo Stitch lacks the charm and, dare I say, wit of its hand-animated predecessor. My biggest disappointment was the erasure of Pleckley's disguises. In the original, so-called Earth expert Pleckley's lack of knowledge about Earth cultures is part of the joke. The live-action incarnation does away Pleckley's unbelievable disguises and instead he and Jamba take the form of humans when on Earth. While the film pays a light homage to some of the memorable bad costuming, it takes away from what made the original film unique and ingenious. Other important elements are still there, such as Lilo's affinity for Elvis and turning Stitch into a record player to show his usefulness. Adding more layers to the characters seems to be meant to fill the running time left open when the filmmakers removed some of the more fantastical and whimsical elements that animation offers. After all, what works in animation doesn't always work in live action, and vice versa. I think the movie is fine, especially for a child who has never seen the original, superior Lilo Stitch, but with that assessment comes a bit of disappointment, as some people won't grow up with the same Lilo, Stitch, Nani, and Pleckley, that made the franchise a mainstay for so many. But this could have been a part of Disney's plan all along. After watching the 2025 version, I was inspired to rewatch the 2002 version the next day. I now have a more profound understanding of the movie, so much so that I had to wonder if this was the same story I loved as a child, or if I am now able to comprehend it better as an adult. Lilo Stitch, 2025. It was clear that Disney had a hit on its hands back at CinemaCon, when a sizzle reel showed Stitch popping up in several Mouse House movies. That was further accentuated by recently named global distribution boss Andrew Cripps taking the stage at Caesars Las Vegas Coliseum in a Stitch jacket alongside IP mastermind, Disney Entertainment co-chairman Alan Bergman. Yes, Disney did have a plan that it'd make less live-action features based on classic animated titles. However, sometimes the company can't help itself, and that's for the better. Because when you're sitting on a brand that rakes in billions annually in global retail, go for it. Last year alone, Lilo Stitch consumer products generated an estimated $2.50 billion plus, according to sources, and was one of 11 evergreen franchises for the Walt Disney Company that surpassed $1 billion plus in retail sales in 2024. All of this just underscores the power of a Disney animated movie 23 years after its release, even when the grosses were alright, not super duper on the 2002 animated movie. While Lilo Stitch beat Tom Cruise this weekend with a $183 million 4-day versus mission, Impossible A Final Reckoning as $77 million. Back in 2002 it was a different story, as The Child and Alien took second place to the blockbuster Starz sci-fi movie Minority Report, $35.6 million to $35.2 million. Lilo Stitch legged out to $145.7 million domestic and $273.1 million global off a then $ATM budget, which was alright at the summer box office at the time, but no Toy Story 2, which grossed $245.7 million and a near $500 million worldwide, further cementing the popularity of Lilo Stitch and the need for a live-action feature film were the Disney Plus Matrix. The entire Lilo Stitch catalog has grown significantly each year on the OTT service, and that's based on hours streamed. The Lilo Stitch franchise has driven over $500 million, 546 hours on Disney Plus around the globe, with the original movie clocking north of 280 hours viewed. Greenlight a live-action feature? Hell, yes, again, just more evidence that theatrical isn't necessarily the entire story, but the flame that ignites it all. The media may have raked the live-action Rachel Zegler Snow White over the coals this past spring, $87.2 million domestic, $205.1 million. But let's sit down and chat 20 years from now, for there could be a Broadway musical and Dice show raking in billions off the songs alone. Just saying. What's clear is a mega millennial love for Lilo Stitch that's blossomed through the years, with the under 35 crowd showing up this weekend at 79%. Women bought tickets at 63% and gave the movie a 93% grade on ComScore. Screen Engine's post-track. Disney's marketing team pulled out all the stops with an irreverent marketing campaign, dropping Stitch cameos in big cultural moments like the Super Bowl, where Stitch caused chaos on the field right after the coin flip with a 30-second spot that generated 173 million views after 24 hours and trended at number 10 on X. Marketing's strategic focus was also about selling moviegoers on the fact that this movie would kick off summer. If you can't make it to Hawaii, well then Lilo Stitch would bring you there. Every facet of the campaign led with Stitch's star power and reminded audiences of the characters they know and love. What was also key was selling the pick not just as a fun one, but also on the weight of its emotional story of friendship, ohana, found family, and choosing to be more than your circumstances. Related, a Lilo Stitch review. Disney's latest live-action remake is a sweet but sluggish adaptation. Stitch crash-landed and wreaked havoc on marketing materials for other Disney classic, live-action and Marvel films including Moana 2, Mufasa, The Lion King, Snow White, Cinderella, Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and Thunderbolts. The lovable alien even busted through the Thunderbolt Sweeties box. A discussing film. Meanwhile at theaters, there was an animatronic Stitch. The first look of Stitch debuted at last August's D23 and became the most viewed announcement out of the entire event week after 24 hours. The Pix trailer became Disney's third most viewed of all time with 158 million views in its first day, ranking behind 2019's Lion King teaser and full trailer. Among the music pushes for the Pix, there was the single-release Hawaiian roller coaster ride, which was further boosted by a special performance from Iam Tongi on American Idol's Disney Night. Soundtrack pre-orders also opened on May 9 for a May 21 drop that also included custom Stitch-shaped die-cut vinyl launches on May 23 available at Target. The Lilo Stitch soundtrack also took over fan-favorite Disney playlists, garnering over 100 million plus streams per month. Broadcast integrations included Stitch bursting onto the sets of Celebrity Wheel of Fortune and Sports Center. There was also programming on Disney Channel airing special looks in Disney films and a freeform tropical-themed movie stunt, plus marathon. Stitch also made cameos and custom spots for Disneyland tied to its 70th anniversary. Of note, there were promos for a Stitch intergalactic dance party at Tomorrowland, similar to what we saw with Inside Out 2. Latino and Hispanic moviegoers fueled the ticket sales for Lilo Stitch, who turned out at 41% per post-track, the leading diversity demographic. Stoking the Quad, Disney held Experiment 626 nights in markets like Alameda County, which had stunted community and influencer screenings, less making stations, hula dancers, Stitch sandcastles, blue shaved ice, as well as partnerships with Big Brothers Big Sisters, Boys Girls Clubs of America. On TikTok, there was a global branded effect that allowed fans to dance next to Stitch. Lilo Stitch became the first ever Disney TikTok global partner for Spotlight, a hub aggregating all UGC content featuring Stitch across the platform. On Snapchat, there was a custom snap lens leveraging our technology, allowing fans to have Stitch crawl on their head and shoulders while wearing a light, sunglasses, etc. Related, some are bound for $4.2 billion after record $326M plus Memorial Day weekend. A Lilo Stitch dances to $183 million holiday high, a Mission Impossible $8.77M plus a Monday box office update. Also, in partnership with Industrial Light and Magic, Stitch was able to react to fans and press in real time through social live streams, press junket interviews and talk show appearances. Promo partners included Hawaiian Airlines with custom-wrapped planes and an in-app Stitch scavenger hunt with an interactive digital travel guide throughout the Hawaiian Islands, as well as a custom spots with Walmart, Spam, T-Mobile for Business, ColourPop, a Gen Z/millennial-focused makeup brand, King's Hawaiian, National Mango Board, Ono Hawaiian BBQ, Furbo, which had a custom pet camera spot featuring Stitch, Ray-Ban and Primark. Here's one final huzza about the Dean Fleischer Camp-directed movie. It was made for a cost of $100 million net before PA. According to analysts this morning, given the rich ancillary downstreams for Lilo Stitch, it will reach break-even at a mere low point of $205 million at the global box office, meaning that's already happened after a global opening of $341.7 million. Sans ancillaries, Lilo Stitch would profit purely in the theatrical window as well at a break-even point of $410 million worldwide. That's truly magical motion picture math. As we told you, the record Memorial Day opening of the movie at $183 million stateside, along with Paramount's 4-day debut of Mission Impossible: A Final Reckoning, puts the summer on track per comp score to $4.2 billion in U.S./Canada. Related, A Mission Impossible: A Final Reckoning review, The Sky's the Limit in Ethan Hunt's A Last Adventure. A Cannes Film Festival. Lilo Stitch is the latest animated classic to get the live-action remake treatment, and Disney made 7 major changes. By introducing Stitch, Disney created a global phenomenon that spawned sequels, TV series, anime, video games, endless merchandise, and, most recently, a live-action remake in 2025. Following live-action updates to The Little Mermaid, The Lion King, and Snow White, Lilo Stitch is finally gracing theaters with rave reviews. Original voice actor Chris Sanders reprises Stitch alongside recast faces such as Sydney Agudong's Nani, Courtney B. Vance's Cobra Bubbles, Hannah Waddingham's Grand Councilwoman, Zach Galifianakis' Jamba Jakaiba, Billy Magnuson's Agent Blackley, and some brand new characters. Meet Lilo Stitch's 2 new characters. Lilo Stitch added 2 new faces for the 2025 remake, most notably Amy Hills Tutu, the family's longtime neighbor, and David Cotton's grandmother. After the movie's climax, Tata ends up taking Lilo into her care while Nani goes off to study, granting her a maternal role and welcoming her into the Ohana. Another new character comes with Tia Carrere's Mrs. Cocoa, the social worker observing Nani and Lilo in place of Cobra Bubbles, whose role in the remake gets some major changes compared to the classic. Lilo Stitch's new characters join 9 returning characters from the original movie for the 2025 remake that maintains the general essence and storyline, albeit with these 7 major changes for the Disney remake. Cobra Bubbles gets a big twist in the original Lilo Stitch. Cobra Bubbles is the social worker watching over Nani and making the tough calls on whether Lilo should remain in her care. An ending twist revealed that Bubbles is a former CIA agent who once saved Earth, meaning the Galactic Federation's Grand Councilwoman was already familiar with him. However, this time around, Bubbles, played by Courtney B. Vance, is an active CIA agent who pursues Stitch after investigating his crash landing on Earth. He does end up impersonating a social work director to get close to Lilo and her family, but that was merely a disguise. Unlike the original classic, Goodbye Captain Gantu, perhaps the biggest change brought to Lilo Stitch comes with the removal of Captain Gantu, the original movie's alien main antagonist, who was sent to Earth by the Galactic Federation to capture Experiment 626. Gantu ends up capturing Lilo and Stitch, only for the chaotic experiment to escape while the Hawaiian girl remains his prisoner. This kick-started a rescue mission with Stitch, Nani, and a reformed Jamba and Plackley chasing after Gantu in a ship-on-ship action spectacular before he was arrested by the Grand Councilwoman. Jamba is very different this time, as Captain Gantu is out as Lilo Stitch's main antagonist. Those duties pass on to Experiment 626's alien creator, Jamba Jokaiba, Zach Galifianakis. While Jamba was originally portrayed as more of a mad scientist trying to recover his creation, he goes full-on villain in the Lilo Stitch remake and causes plenty of destruction in his endeavors. And, ultimately, when he gets his hands on Stitch, he sets out to modify his adorable creation into Experiment 627. Classically, Jamba and Plackley remain in their alien form through Lilo Stitch, hilariously disguising themselves in human clothes. This time, they simply use alien technology to transform into their voice actors, Zach Galifianakis and Billy Magnuson, presumably to save money on their giant CGI alien models. A less spectacular climax, as there is no Captain Gantu and, as such, no big mission to rescue Lilo. The Ohana's pursuit of his ship on Jamba's spacecraft is completely gone. This made for an action-packed finale in the original movie that is now nowhere to be seen, leading to a less spectacular, and more budget-friendly, climax. Stitch also had a close call with death in the remake that was absent from the 2002 fan favorite. Having escaped Jamba's ship, Stitch came close to drowning before Nani came to the rescue, and he was ultimately revived thanks to a jumpstart from the troublesome family car, setting up the emotional ending. Stitch's fate is a little different. Originally, it was a legal loophole that allowed Stitch to stay on Earth, as aliens are sticklers for their rules, and, since Lilo paid $2 for Stitch at the animal shelter, to take him away would be stealing and thus illegal. The Grand Councilwoman was clearly impressed by Stitch's emotional development, placing the family under the protection of the Galactic Federation and preventing Lilo and Nani from being separated. Things play out rather differently after the 2025 remake's chaotic climax, with no such legal loophole involved, as Agent Plackley instead agrees to watch over Stitch on Earth, a dream come true for the expert on the human planet. Nani fulfills her dreams. Nani and Lilo get to live happily ever after in the animated movie, as, being Stitch's protectors, they are placed under the Galactic Federation's care, preventing them from being separated by the government and social worker Cobra Bubbles. Thanks to the introduction of longtime neighbor Tutu, the remake changes things, as Lilo instead goes into her care while Nani moves away to go to college and fulfill her dream of studying marine biology. This may appear tragic at first, as, despite a fairly happy ending, the sisters are still separated as Lilo is taken out of Nani's care. But the post-credit scene reveals they still get to spend time together, as Nani hops through a portal between her college dorm and Lilo's bedroom to cuddle her sister through the night. Ohana means family, and family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. Disney previewed a taste of the live-action version of Lilo Stitch at D23 on Friday, starring Maia Kealoha as Lilo Palakai. The live-action movie will be only in theaters in summer 2025. Disney's release calendar shows an open slot on May 23, though the date wasn't specified at D23. The reboot follows the original film, released in 2002 and written and directed by Chris Sanders and Dean Doblos. The animated Lilo Stitch follows a 6-year-old Lilo and her older sister Nani, who live in Hawaii and adopt a blue extraterrestrial creature nicknamed Stitch. In this live-action adaptation, Stitch will be brought to life using CGI. Lilo Stitch has seen plenty of spin-offs, including Stitch, the movie, Lilo Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, and Leroy Stitch. Lilo Stitch, the series, a TV show spin-off, ran on Disney Channel and ABC Kids from 2003 to 2006. Sydney Agudong stars as Nani in the live-action adaptation, with Sanders reprising his voice role as Stitch. Newcomer Zach Galifianakis stars as Dr. Jamba Jakaiba, the mad scientist creator of Stitch. Billy Magnuson plays Agent Blackley, an agent of the United Galactic Federation sent to seek out Dr. Jamba. Courtney B. Vance plays a social worker in charge of Lilo. Tia Carrere, who voiced Nani in the original film, will play Mrs. Cocoa. Mrs. Haskell's voice actor, Amy Hill, also joins the cast as Tata, alongside Jason Scott Lee, who played David Kaina in the animated film. Oscar-nominated Marcel the Shell with Shoes On filmmaker Dean Fleischer Camp directed the film, with the screenplay from Chris Kakalani Bright. Dan Lin and Jonathan Irock of Rideback produce, with Ryan Halprin, Tom Siepsman and Louis Provost executive producing.